Hey there, SC Whitmore teachers, and welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide through this material today. Okay, let's just dive right in. I want you to consider this your ultimate operational playbook for a truly successful start to the 2026-2027 school year. You know, as educators in a virtual environment, staying organized and aligned with state laws, compliance, and our specific school mission, well, that's literally the foundation of our success. So we're going to take all those dense policy documents and handbooks and translate them into a clear, visual roadmap so you can start the year feeling completely empowered. Let's do this.
So, here is how our roadmap breaks down today. First, we'll tackle Section 1, your annual compliance checklist. Then, Section 2, navigating new state laws. After that, we'll hit Section 3, supporting every student profile. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with Section 4, our Title I mission.
All right, Section 1, your annual compliance checklist, getting the paperwork done.
Look, we all know the start of the year brings a massive paperwork drop, right? So let's efficiently tackle our mandatory trainings first and get them out of the way. Every single high school teacher has to complete these crucial safety and legal mandates. You'll be covering bloodborne pathogens and seizure safety, which is absolutely vital for state-mandated medical response. Then there's Title IX and mandatory reporting to keep you totally up to date on federal non-discrimination guidelines and South Carolina's child abuse reporting laws. We also have FERPA and data security because keeping our students' digital records and testing data private is a top priority. And lastly, you'll need the SCTS 4.0 and ADPD Evaluator Overview. That's basically the rubric training used for your formal and informal annual evaluations.
Okay, so here is your immediate to-do list. Let's call these your quick wins. First up, sign your orientation in SC Lead. Now, pay close attention to this next part because it's a real time saver. You only need to do the Jason Flatt suicide prevention training if you are actively recertifying this year. Make sense? Awesome. Also, for your student learning objectives, your SLOs, you can find some fantastic examples directly on the SC State Department website. And here's a huge perk for you. Teachers can now use in-service hours to count for recertification. So please, whatever you do, save those Vector Solutions certificates. They count for your in-service hours, and you'll just submit that certificate straight to the district.
Moving right along to Section 2, navigating new state laws, grading and accountability updates.
There are some major legislative changes in South Carolina this year, and they are going to directly impact your grading processes. First up is Regulation H 5703, otherwise known as the grade floor ban. This strictly prohibits school districts from forcing teachers to give a minimum baseline grade. So you know that automatic 50% floor that doesn't reflect a student's actual work? Yeah, that's gone. Second, check out the credit recovery rules. Moving forward, students are mandated to finish all of their original missing coursework before they are ever allowed to enroll in credit or content recovery programs. No skipping the line. Finally, benchmark tests now have new restrictions. They literally cannot count toward a student's GPA unless that exact material has already been formally taught and reviewed in your class.
All right, Section 3, supporting every student profile, micro-level care. So, with compliance and state laws handled, let's zoom in on the actual classroom level. This brings us to a very real challenge we face. In a virtual environment like SC Whitmore, where you aren't physically sitting in a room with these kids, how do you rapidly identify which students require specific interventions or accommodations?
The answer is surprisingly simple, but it is essential. You've got to look for the flag. This is a visual indicator right on a student's page, and it acts as your immediate visual anchor. If you see that flag, it's telling you instantly that this student has unique legal and academic needs. It means they're either in special education, under a Section 504 plan, or they're a multilingual learner.
Now, it is absolutely critical that we demystify the difference between accommodations and modifications for our flagged special education students. It's like this. Accommodations are all about access. They do not fundamentally alter or lower the actual course standards. Instead, they just adjust the way a student shows their understanding so they can access the curriculum. Modifications, on the other hand, they fundamentally alter or lower the standard for the course itself. This is a massive distinction, folks, because a student receiving modifications might not receive credit for a standard diploma.
Similarly, we need to make sure we accurately distinguish between special education and Section 504 plans. Both types of students are going to have flags on their pages, and both require strict adherence to accommodations. However, students with 504 plans are absolutely not classified as special education students. Their plans provide legally required accommodations just to level the playing field, but they don't have specialized education plans like IEPs in the way special education students do. Okay, let's shift gears to our multilingual learners, who, remember, also have a flag on their page. For these students, understanding the timeline of language acquisition is a real game changer for your instruction. Social language, which is that less specialized language relying on verbal and cultural cues used inside and outside of school, that typically takes about 3 to 5 years for a student to become proficient. But academic language, that carries a much higher cognitive demand with highly specialized vocabulary used in classroom texts and discussions. That takes much longer, about 4 to 7 years. You've got to keep this higher cognitive demand in mind when pacing out your virtual lessons.
At SC Whitmore, we actually have very few ML students, but those who do require direct services receive them in a dedicated ML support class on top of their regular content classes. Michelle Bishop is your go-to person here. She works directly with them to make sure they get the support they need, so definitely do not hesitate to reach out to her with questions. Also, make sure you always leverage Edgenuity's in-lesson translations. And remember, legally, if a parent needs information regarding their rights, processes, or regulations, we are required to provide those documents in their native language using our contracted translation service.
Next up is an incredibly sensitive but hugely important topic: supporting homeless students. If a student says something in a message or on a call, and you even slightly suspect they might be experiencing homelessness, follow these exact steps. Step 1. Identify that suspicion. Step 2. Immediately contact Amber Goff. She'll be the one to reach out to the student or parent. Step 3. The school takes action. All homeless students have a legally protected right to enroll in and attend our school, and we will do everything to ensure they can keep attending during their period of homelessness.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4. Our Title I mission, the big picture.
Let's pull back from the micro-level classroom dynamics for a second and look at our overarching community mission. This quote right here, it perfectly captures the core purpose of Title I, Part A. It's a powerful reminder of exactly why we do what we do. Our mission is to improve teaching and learning in high-poverty schools, specifically targeting those kids who are failing or most at risk of failing so they can actually meet those challenging state academic standards.
To accomplish a mission that huge, we rely on a shared ecosystem of responsibilities. Yes, it starts with high-quality, evidence-based curriculum delivered by fully certified staff like yourselves, but it extends way beyond the classroom. It requires really robust parent and family engagement. We're talking about co-developing a school parent compact, holding annual meetings, transparently sharing our school report card, and constantly evaluating our school-wide programs so we can keep getting better.
So as you finalize those compliance checklists, update your grading practices for the new state laws, and review your rosters for those vital student flags, I want to leave you with this one final thought. As we launch this 26-27 school year, how are you going to use this playbook to empower every single student behind the screen? How will you bring that Title I mission to life in your virtual classroom this year? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and have an absolutely incredible start to your school year.